And the raphide is a toothpick. It's a long pole with points on the end designed as an arrow that is designed to puncture the cells of somebody who consumes these raphides.
Hey guys, today our guest is Sally K Norton. Sally Norton is a nutrition and wellness consultant who gives talks, workshops, and private consultations on the relation between nutrition and well-being. Coming from a background of vegetarian way of eating, she quickly realized that despite eating the so-called healthy foods, she was suffering from a wide variety of health issues. After 35 years of chronic pain and fatigue, Sally has found a real nutritional cure for persistent brain fog, food problems, back pain, joint and muscle pain, headaches, and so many health troubles. What she has found is that a shift towards the shift towards food to in low oxalate content would dramatically restore body's healing potential and vitality. Today, she is a stalwart in the field of oxalates, a topic which was largely ignored by health professionals, and she is one of the pioneers who made the problems of oxalates visible to the eyes of masses. Sally is also an expert in making complex things simple, which made her one of the most sought after health experts in the field of nutrition. I am privileged to welcome Sally K Norton. Hey Sally, thank you for coming on to the show.
Hi there. It's really great to be with you. It's fantastic.
Sally, before we go into the questions, where can people connect with you?
Well, it's always good to check out my website, which is sallyknorton.com. And look around there. There's some resources. Most of it's free, and you can even get a cookbook there. That's not free, but please check out the website. I'm also on Instagram, and that's the best place to connect with me is the website and on Instagram.
Also, you have a cookbook, right, Sally?
Yes, the cookbook's in the shop section of my website, and there's a lot of downloads there. Many of them are free. So you can read some of the background and see some of the references of some of the things we talk about from there.
Awesome, Sally. My first question is that you said that you had a trouble feet. Can you explain that?
Well, let's see. I was in high school and trying to get fit and started college. And my first year of college, I was walking around and starting to have a lame foot, and I didn't know what was wrong with it. And it turned into about 8 or 9 years of problems with my feet. And eventually I had to leave college. I went to Cornell University to study nutrition. I wanted to do that ever since 7th grade when I was 12 or 13 years old. I learned from my science teacher that it makes a big difference about whether you get seriously sick. Chronic illness comes from the way you eat, and if you're really sick with something, your food has something to do with it. And I wanted to study that and help people be well. So here I am in the health field trying to learn nutrition, but I had to leave college and have foot surgery on both feet. And it didn't recover very well. I didn't get back on my feet. I kept having problems. I still needed painkillers. I couldn't really walk very much. I would need wheelchairs to go into a big place. Anything with a lot of stepping and a lot of space, we had to walk a lot. I'd need help. And I tried swimming every day, which helped somewhat. Eventually, I got functional enough that I could wear normal shoes. I had made all these inserts for my shoes. I had bought 4 or 5 of them from different physical therapy offices. The doctor would keep sending me to the physical therapist because they didn't know why I wasn't doing better. Here I'm in my 20s. I can't use my feet. It was really quite disabling. And I continued to have kind of weak feet. I'd have to wear shoes just to stand, to hold my feet together, and could never run or jump or do things like that really to any extent, or really wear high heels. My feet they had sort of weak connective tissue, I guess. And to my surprise, later on, when I was figuring out why I was having arthritis so many years, I had started having arthritic type pains and back pain when I was 12. So here I'm a young woman and not even fully grown, and I'm already having aches and pains and a little bit of neurological problems. And then in high school, I started getting trouble with learning sometimes. I start to have brain fog and things like that, and not able to stay focused for long periods of time. So, I was having all these issues, and I was always into eating healthy. I decided as a kid, like even in kindergarten, I wanted to be healthy. So here are my feet, perpetual problem, and all these other problems of fatigue and things developed over the years. And of course, I moved towards the best health I knew about and moved into vegetarianism when I was about 18 and did that for 8 years. And then was convinced by John Robbins to go into a vegan diet and stopped eating eggs and yogurt and milk and things. And of course, my health did not get better. And it was much later when I was 48 when I finally understood that the arthritis, joint pains, inflammation was related to my diet. And it was the high oxalate foods. Like by now, I started to learn more about oxalate. And I've been a person who grew Swiss chard my whole life and love that, and beets and beet greens. And these are examples of foods that are high in oxalates. So the connection with the feet is that I decided to really get serious about learning where the oxalates were in my diet and eat less of them and get on this low oxalate diet to fix my arthritis. And I was shocked. Within 6 months, I am wearing high heels and my feet are great. And now I can run barefoot on bare pavement, rough pavement, no problem being bare feet whatsoever. My feet are fine. And now I'm 56 years old.
You seem so young. I did not think that you were 56.
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel about 35 years younger than I did when I was eating high oxalate foods. I really felt like I was an old lady through most of my 30s and 40s. I had arthritis, I had back pain, I had fatigue, I had brain fog, I had memory problems. I had to push myself in life. And I really, when I taught yoga to people who were in a retirement community, they're all in their 80s and beyond. And I felt right at home there because I had all the aches and pains. I felt like an old person. And now I feel ageless. I feel like I have no age. I feel like a human being that's fully alive. And that's what this has done for me, getting these toxins that are in the plants, oxalate in particular, out of my body. And now my body's starting to get rid of the ones that have been left behind, and I'm cleaning up. And of course, most people never heard the word oxalate. They don't know what that is. It's like fiction. It's like, what is that? There's very little conversation about oxalates and how they could be harming our health. And that is disturbing. Go ahead.
Sally, can you briefly explain what are oxalates and what are some common effects of oxalates?
Yeah, so oxalate is a very small chemical that we get when we eat a lot of the plant foods like nuts and seeds and potatoes and spices and so on. And we also make a little oxalate in the metabolism of our body. When we break down vitamin C, we break down certain connective tissues and amino acids like gelatin, collagen. Anyway, there's internal production in our bodies. It's a very small compound. It even can be made in pollution, like the stuff that we burn, the plastics and the fuels we burn. They hit the clouds, and then some of it turns into acid, oxalic acid in the rain. So oxalic acid is the simple form, and that acid is usually in an ion form that tends to grab minerals. So it's oxalic acid is a chelator. So it connects with positively charged minerals. The oxalic acid side is negatively charged. The minerals like calcium and any other mineral you can think of, manganese and magnesium, they have positive charge and they connect together. And that's called a salt when they come together. And that forms anywhere it can in biology. It can form in the clouds, it can form in your body. And when we eat a lot of oxalate from foods, it starts to mess up our metabolism with minerals and has a lot of other effects in our body. So it can start depleting us of calcium and other minerals and get us on the road to various problems with our metabolism because we're deficient in minerals. And that includes the most obvious mineral problem is osteopenia and osteoporosis. But you also have growth problems in fetal development and childhood when you don't have enough nutrients and minerals, so you have a smaller body. So that are shorter, often it's not because of your genetics, it's because of the nutritional situation before conception, during fetal development, and during childhood. So the size that you grow into and the shape of your bones depends on your nutrition. So it's really fundamental stuff that we don't even think about. We think, oh, nowadays it's so popular to just blame your genetics for everything. And that's not a good understanding of how biology works. But genetics can be your potential, but your potential is not fulfilled until you're properly nourished with not just nutrients, but the proper sunshine and exercise and love and care and community. But basically, if you don't have the minerals and nutrients you need, you're in trouble, and it's going to end up causing chronic disease. And oxalate not only causes deficiencies of minerals and B6 and possibly other B vitamins, but it also causes toxicity because it is fundamentally toxic. And toxicity is interfering with, the meaning of that is that it interferes with how cells should work. And as the cells aren't working well, whole systems, organs aren't working well, and your immune system and all these other systems of cells working together so that the whole body is happy and well and long-lived is interfered with. And so people are familiar maybe with lead toxicity and asbestos toxicity and mercury and heavy metals. Well, oxalate's example of that level of toxicity. The research equates oxalate with asbestos and silica. Like, it's quite serious how it's interfering with cell function. And yet your body is so busy trying to be alive and healthy, and it doesn't complain about it. It's underneath. These effects are happening from things we do every day. We're eating foods high in oxalate every day, and they're happening at a very subtle, way down low at that little tiny cellular level. This chemical can have these effects, and the body's not complaining about it. It's just coping with it as best it can. And by the time you get symptoms, you are in serious trouble.
Sally, can you talk about raphides?
The rapide. So because oxalic acid grabs minerals, and its favorite mineral to grab is calcium. So calcium oxalate is the usual form that you see a lot in the plants we're eating, because plants make oxalate, and plants have a way of controlling how the calcium oxalate connects with itself. So this is called crystal growth. You get calcium oxalate molecules, you get about 8 or 10 pairs of them, and they come together and they form a nanocrystal. Now, nanocrystals, uber toxic. Nanocrystals are super invisible. You need really fancy high-tech microscopes to see this stuff. It is smaller than a single little fat molecule in your membranes. It's really invisible. Nanocrystals come together and they form bigger crystals. So crystal growth is like this lattice structure. That's what happens. Actually, there's a kind of a crystalline shape in a snowflake or an ice cube because the molecules line up in a particular way. Well, plants can control the way calcium oxalate grows into crystals into particular shapes. And then there's many shapes, but one really important shape that the plants deliberately make is a raphide. And the raphide is a toothpick. It's a long pole with points on the end designed as an arrow that is designed to puncture the cells of somebody who consumes these raphides. And the cells make bundles of the raphides in like a quiver full, like a whole sheath of arrows, hundreds of them. and can literally shoot them out when you damage a cell, like you chew on or squeeze or smash a leaf that's full of the rapide crystals. The the cells shoot them out, and if you're eating it like in a kiwi, it will actually penetrate the cells in the mouth and the throat. And we see it a lot in poisoning from a house plant called Dieffenbachia. Dieffenbachia is used as a tropical floor plant, and it's used as a house plant. And a lot of shopping centers will have these plants around, by the fountains, and it will be Dieffenbachia plant. It's a pretty plant. And it just takes a little drop of sap from the stem of the plant to get this damage. And that's why Dieffenbachia is called dumb cane. Dumb meaning you can't speak, because Dieffenbachia will paralyze the vocal cords because of those raphides attacking the cells. And then the immune system comes in to protect itself and to get rid of this sort of infection, sort of this attack from the crystals. And it causes a lot of inflammation, and you lose your ability to speak. So that's why dumb cane is called dumb cane. It's because of the oxalate crystals in the plant. Not good.
Sally, what are some superfoods that actually harm us?
Okay, how about tea? Black tea and green tea. Chia seeds, poppy seeds, star fruit, which is very big in Asia and is used for medicine, is very high in oxalate, like rhubarb is. And you can die from overdoing star fruit and star fruit juice. Nuts, almonds, peanuts, beans, green vegetables like spinach. Spinach is kind of the poster child of oxalate because it's so popular and it's so, so high in oxalate. And other greens include rhubarb, or we said rhubarb stems. The greens on a rhubarb plant, by the way, have so much oxalate that they will kill you. And they're known to be that toxic. But beet greens and Swiss chard, which are often used in salad mixes here, in baby forms, are worse than spinach, more oxalate than spinach. So those are the three big greens, but then there's the beans, and then there's the whole spice thing, because plants make oxalate and put it in the seeds. The seeds are protected by oxalate crystals. Okay, and the oxalate also stores calcium, and the seed will need the calcium to help run enzymes that help with germination later. So there's quite a bit of oxalate in anything that's a seed. And so many spices are seeds, like cardamom, green and black cardamom are very high in it's like 99% of the oxalate in cardamom it's not only high, but it's in this soluble form that's not connected with oxalate, and it's not in the crystals. I don't know why that seed needs soluble oxalate, not the crystal kind. But that soluble oxalate is the kind that when you eat it, it takes the calcium out of your food. Some of it goes in your blood, and it takes the calcium out of your blood and causes problems. Turmeric is like the ultimate save you food. Like, oh, everyone's got to have turmeric. Now you can buy it in these massive containers as if you're eating it like I don't know, a stew, a whole pile of turmeric. People are pushing this turmeric root, and that's very high in this bioavailable soluble oxalate. Ginger root actually is pretty high in soluble oxalate. Cumin and the Indian bay leaf, what is it called? Malabathrum. Do you know that? It's like a cinnamon leaf. They use it to season, maybe not in southern India, maybe West India is a lot of kidney stones there. The calcium oxalate becomes a kidney stone. And not so in the plant, it's a raphide and other shapes of crystals. And some of it's not crystal, and it's a soluble form that we absorb. And then when you absorb it after you eat it, it becomes crystals in your body that can cause calcification of the arteries and get into your joints and bones. But also, the main problem everyone is familiar with is the kidney stone problem. And in India, something like 93% of all kidney stones are made of oxalate. And maybe that has something to do with the turmeric, the cardamom, the cumin, the bay leaf, and these foods that are very high in soluble oxalate, even though you eat a small amount of them because they have so much flavor, right? If you're eating it every day and every meal because it's your standard thing you do is your food is all heavily seasoned with these high oxalate seasonings, and you have some tea and you have a little bit of potatoes or a little bit of peanuts or a little bit of nuts or some sweet potatoes or some spinach or okra, this is too much oxalate. And then there's whole bran and grains and quinoa and teff and amaranth and buckwheat, and it's kind of hiding out in a lot of foods that people in modern times think are good for them. Whoopsie, not good.
Sally, like you have mentioned, the spices are used in India every day in every dish. So maybe they say that they have been using from ancestrally, so we have to use it. And your clear explanation will open their eyes. Thank you for your explanation.
Well, if you want the flavor and some of the potential, maybe there are some benefits to it. It's not really clear. We've been sold the idea that these things are protecting our health. And I think traditionally they protected our health because they have these toxic effects that kill bacteria. So by using a lot of spices, you kind of make a food safer to eat. You won't get a bacterial infection. And so the hot tropical areas that have never had refrigeration until modern times, how do you keep your food from having spoilage? Well, heavy use of spices kills bacteria in the food. But heavy use of spices can kill other things too, including your own cells. But if you buy extracts like curcumin extract made from turmeric root, that's very low in oxalate. So you can use the extracts, which are sold as supplements. They still have some flavor in them. And you can also use essential oils. So cumin essential oil, for example, has a lot of flavor. You have to dilute it way down or else you'll ruin your dish by putting too much there. You don't get quite the same flavor because the technique in Indian cooking is to smoke, kind of heat the spices so you bring out the flavor, and then it infuses in the cooking oils. And there's a whole, time-consuming practice of how you work with spices that's, complicated really, and very sophisticated art in Indian cooking. That's why Indian cooking is popular all over the world, because it's got this artful side to it. But there's a dark side to it, and that's the fact that these same spices that give this unique flavor to Indian food are very high in oxalate. And I really believe that India is the country that probably eats the most oxalate out of anybody. Anybody who's doing tea plus potatoes plus some kind of nuts and green leafy vegetables, because there's other vegetables that are native to India that are very popular in the summertime, especially in the rural areas. They are very high in oxalate. There are some that are better than that, and they're vegetables I'm not familiar with, but there's people who are studying oxalate in India. Lots of research about oxalate comes out of Indian universities because it's a big problem there. It's an obvious problem there. This basically plant-centric diet that's heavy in these high oxalate spices. Tea is very popular there. And then the green leafy summer vegetables, people get into bigger trouble with kidney stones in the summertime when they're eating more of those fresh vegetables. So it's a big problem.
Sally, does cooking eliminate oxalates?
Not really. You can't heat these things away. The crystals in particular are fairly durable. They can last like 10,000 years. They dig them up in these sites when they're studying about the history of human beings, and they use these remains of the plants, these crystals, the raphide crystals, to see what people were consuming or working with way back tens of thousands of years ago. And what they find is that those crystals cause dental problems because they wear out, they're harder than your teeth. They're abrasive to your teeth. So if they're bad enough harder than your teeth, they're pretty hard on your stomach. Like, eating them all the time can lead to leaky gut. And also, beans are high in lectins. If you're not using your pressure cooker and really cooking and soaking your beans, like there's a 3-day soak plus pressure cooking to kill those lectins. If you're taking shortcuts on that or using a slow cooker or low heat, between the lectins and the rapide crystals and the other abrasive effects of oxalate in foods, you're going to end up with leaky gut. And leaky gut means malnutrition, and it means inflammation, and it means probably allergy. So if you're skinny and have weak bones and don't have big muscles, you probably don't have enough nutrients. You certainly don't have enough protein. You don't have enough minerals. And it may be because these plant foods have damaged your digestive tract. Unfortunately, lentils are very high in lectins. And lentils are incredibly popular. I mean, that's your basic dal is lentils. Now, peas aren't as bad. Um, the split peas aren't so bad in oxalate, and lentils are not that high in oxalate, but there's the lectin problem. So you got your high oxalate spices mixed with your high lectin lentils and so on, and you have a disaster for gut health. And I think this gut health makes for some people to look very thin and frail, and then other people with this modern sugar and carbohydrates are getting very obese and diabetic. You can be skinny and diabetic and have this malnutrition, and this means you end up with arthritis and frailty, and if you fall over, you break a bone, and you're not at your best and you don't feel good.
Sally, how does one know that they are suffering from an oxalate problem?
Yeah, that's a really difficult question, actually, because even the doctors can't help you. Like they're not going to help you find it. And one of the reasons we're not talking about this problem is because it's hard to do testing. We used to have, it used to be a known problem in the 40s, in the 1940s, and way even back further than that, in the 1850s, all through the 1800s and early 1900s, this was a real disease. But you can't use technology and measure blood and urine and really tell that the problem is there. It's not that kind of problem. And so your doctor's not going to help you a lot. So you have to really be learning enough about how this works to see in yourself. If you have no symptoms, you might still have an oxalate problem because your body is trying to not have symptoms. It's trying to manage it quietly, and it knows how to package up the oxalate that gets left behind because you're mostly going to eat oxalate, absorb it. It goes into your liver and then up to your heart and into your lungs and then flies all over your vascular system through your bloodstream to your kidneys. And then the kidneys release the oxalate in the urine and you're peeing out crystals. And some of it gets stuck and becomes kidney stones or problems with vascular inflammation, vasculitis. If you've got circulatory problems, if you've got hormonal problems, glandular problems, osteopenia, arthritis, it can cause gout. So if you have aches and pains in the joints, if you have fibromyalgia, muscle problems, that could be oxalate, very much so. If you have memory problems, if you have itchy eyes, if you get gritty eyes or if they're kind of irritated eyes, that can be oxalate. If you have a lot of tartar on your teeth, that could be oxalate being released from your jaws and from your saliva glands. If you have chronic sinus infections, if you tend to get sinus pain and headaches, that could be oxalate. If you get bone pain or kidney pain, or if you see cloudy urine a lot, the cloudy urine, yay, your kidneys are peeing out a lot of oxalate. They're working. But that cloudy urine shouldn't be cloudy that often. That means a lot of crystals in the urine. So there's a lot of things you might be able to notice. You don't necessarily need your doctor to tell you that your eyes are itching and you have sinus pain and that you have cloudy urine, or your back hurts or your joints are bothering you, you get inflammation. That could all be signs of too much oxalate.
Sally, you don't suggest people to move from a high carb to low carb, like from day one onwards. Why?
Right. So high carb, high oxalate is a bad combination. And then moving down from high carb or high oxalate needs to be kind of a gradual process. And there's lots of reasons for that. But the thing is, what's happening when we're eating a high oxalate diet, all that turmeric every day, potatoes every day, all that spinach, the body is in a mode of trying to store it and hold on to it because it's overwhelming the kidneys and overwhelming the bloodstream. The body doesn't want it to be in the blood. It doesn't want the kidneys to fail. So the other cells in the bodies will hold on to the oxalate for a while, waiting for the kidneys to be ready, because the kidneys are just being asked to do too much all the time. And in that process of protecting the kidneys and the vascular system, the other cells get stuck holding all this oxalate. And it gets kind of used to it. So it starts to be good at holding on to oxalate over the years. And that's one type of metabolism, the sequestration metabolism, where the body's holding, collecting oxalate. When you stop eating it, give your kidneys a couple days, 5 days, maybe a few months to get better and not have so much overload. And then the other cells are like, yes, we can get rid of this awful stuff. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the kidneys to tell us they're ready for this. And then the body will start releasing this deposit that's hanging around in your joints and your vascular system and so on. And that puts it back in the bloodstream and makes you toxic again. And it can overwhelm the kidneys, and you see cloudy urine again. And you can actually start getting kidney stones and more symptoms, even sometimes worse symptoms, now that your body is trying to detox and release this old collection. So it is important that you know that if you're feeling really sick and you think it might be related to the fact that you love your spinach and potatoes and turmeric, then you need to come down gradually and learn a little bit more about how this works. And it's helpful to not be eating a high carbohydrate diet. The high carbohydrate diet makes you hungry all the time. It makes you grumpy, as do oxalates. That's another thing oxalates will do, is it'll cause irritation, irritability, impatience, depression, anxiety, clumsiness, all these neurologic neurotoxicity symptoms. Carbohydrates make that worse. And also your energy metabolism is damaged because the oxalate damages your mitochondria that run your energy metabolism. And your energy metabolism has been forced to eat so much carbs and be carb-centric metabolism. And yet your enzymes that do all that work are damaged by the oxalate. And you may not even have enough mitochondria. So you need to build back your energy system. And that's not easy to do because there's still oxalate in your body. So that whole thing, that whole transition, moving into a healthier diet that has got more animal protein in it, more animal fat in it, and less of the toxins from these plants, is a tricky process. And honestly, the best solution is prevention. If we could raise ourselves on less of these plant toxins, less of this junk food, less of the rice and carbohydrates, and use more animal foods, we'd be better off.
Sally, you have mentioned that people are attempting suicide with the oxalate-rich washing powders. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because of oxalate is a chelator. It's a great cleaning ingredient. It's been used in cleaners for 250 years. It's used in industry to bleach fabrics and textiles, clean leather. It's used in workshops to clean rust off of motor engines. So you can use oxalic acid to remove rust, remove stains from clothing and fabric. So a lot of the products sold in India contain oxalic acid in the washing powder. And people know that washing powder can kill you, so they'll take washing powder when they're so depressed and unhappy to kill themselves. And the thing that's killing them is the oxalic acid. It stops your heartbeat. Basically, it takes enough calcium out of your blood that the heart goes into arrhythmia and gets confused. And then you basically get a heart attack, plus you get kidney failure. So the combination of kidney failure and heart attack, it's usually the heart that kills you from the washing powder suicide.
Sally, last question. Would you like to issue a 7-day challenge to our viewers?
Oh, a 7-day challenge. Well, I would say the most important thing is to really spend time thinking about your health at a deeper level. Be willing to think new thoughts. Like, be willing to maybe use your meditation practice to say that you are an open vessel, willing to learn these new ideas. Because our biggest barrier to recognizing this problem is that we've been brainwashed to think that the way we eat is the right thing to do, even though it's killing us. So I think the best seventh day challenge is to try to use your meditation practice to empty your heart and mind of all these preconceived wrong biases that we've been handed to by our culture that are getting worse now that we're doing all this pro plant-based and pro veganism. That could be taking us in the wrong direction. And I want you to spend time with your heart to let yourself move past this groupthink and really think, and then really invest some time in learning.
Sally, can you once again say where can people connect with you so that they will remember better?
Yes, come check me out at sallyknorton.com, my website, sallyknorton.com. There's a lot of information there, a couple of videos, and I'm SK Norton on Instagram. That's at SK Norton on Instagram.
Sally, before we leave, I want to share to audience how I feel about you. So I have first discovered you on YouTube via your ancestral health symposium seminar, where you explained oxalates so simply that even a layman could understand. And during that time, I was doing keto, where I purchased all kind of like almond powders, almond milk, and everything. And after watching your video, I realized that it is one of the worst things to do, and I have stopped then. And you're also one of the main reason for me to convert to a carnivore diet. And in fact, my whole family converted into a carnivore diet because of your research. And I have shown them that if you eat these high oxalate rich foods, then these raphides, which are like needles, will pierce into your cells. And they were so kind to accept that. And I'm really grateful to you for your work, and now I have lost more than 52 pounds because of shifting to carnivore diet, Sally. I'm very grateful to your work.
That's all I want from my work, is to find people like you who are willing to learn and put it into practice. You are awesome.
Thank you, Sally, for coming on to the show.
My pleasure.
Guys, go and check out Sally's stuff, and first of all, book a appointment with Sally for one-on-one consultation, because she is so cool that you will make a huge progress in your health journey. So thank you, Sally.
You're welcome. Great to be with you. Hey guys, so let's make sure we all subscribe. I'm going to do it. Subscribe to BNS Goku. Is that it? Yeah. So subscribe to your channel, because you're bringing out some important information that more and more of us need to hear about. And this conversation has to keep going forward.